Hello. Um, right now I'm going to be helping Bree with her arts. I'm gonna start with this one just because it's a bit more simple, and I think it's a little older. So, um, first, I think I gave you guys some brushes. Let me separate those. The ones that I use mostly. The ones I usually use are in this, and then over here, I think. Yeah. So this water blur is really, really good. I'm gonna show you what it does. It's really good for like I use it a lot. So I use it for like my shadows. So say this is like a curve of an arm or something, and you take this water brush, and then you can do this, and it sort of just auto renders the whole thing for you. And so this is like my huge brush that I use a lot. It takes a little practice to get to like use it correctly. Um, but obviously there's like a lot of stuff you can do with it. It just takes a little time to get used to it because it is a little weird. And, like the way that it blends or blurs is a little weird. But that one's this water brush. I'll put this over here. Um, I switch around my like sketching and line art brushes a lot. I rarely use the same ones. I'm trying to stop doing that, but I just really like to use different pens a lot. So that's more my problem than anything else. Another one I use is this Opaque watercolor. This is actually from one of the like original like OG um Clip Studio set or whatever. Like it came, and you can still download it. It's like an official Clip Studio. But this is how I usually make how I blend hair. Let's see if I can show you an example again. So if you have hair, then I'll do like something like this, and then I'll take my this and like it makes coloring hair really easy because it just really it's really nice to like pull colors out basically. And that's what I use this one for. And this is the Opaque watercolor, and that is a OG like Clip Studio like resource thingy, so it's free and everything. Um, I've also been using this So Fluffy brush a lot. This is one that I mostly use for like rendering. It's really good for, let's see, so, so we have, it's just good for like painterly sort of stuff. And then if I use that and then I go in with my water blur, like, you can see how you like mix and match them. I'm gonna put that one over here as well. So fluffy. There's other ones. I use this one as well, the blend in brush, just to like an overall blender. Like, so if I am using this watercolor one, you see, if I do blend with it, it does leave like those streaks, where it does start to look just a little too chunky, I guess. I'll just use this to like flatten it out a little bit. But that's more of like a end game sort of brush, I guess. There's also this main blend, also very gentle and light. And the So Fluffy detail, the pen that came with the other fluffy one, it's just a little sharper. Um, then I have these blends, and they just vary on like how strong and stuff they are. And They're also very good. If you guys want the like links or anything to any of these, just let me know and I'll find them. I think I gave you quite a few of them. There's also the shading one that I've really started to use pretty often lately. It's really nice. It's very similar to the watercolor brush, but it's a little bit more sharp. So I like to use it around like dark shadows. It's called shading. So, and there's also a brush that I don't think I have here. So yeah, it's this AO brush. These are incredible brushes. I'm actually gonna move them over here. So like, I have so many brushes. But sometimes I'll just flip through them and pick a different one for whatever I'm working on, whatever feels better. But so for this AO and this easy shadow brush here, let me move these. So this AO brush, I love it a lot because it's very good and very strong. So say we have this circle. Instead of like doing like a manual shadow or shade, you can just take this AO brush. Hold on a second. And let's say we have another layer on top of it that is another color or something, whatever. Maybe this is like a top or something. Like these two are separated. Just basically make sure you lock your transparency on that one. Oops, sorry. And then with the AO brush, you can use a blending mode. I prefer not to. Most of the time anyways. But it creates a really perfect sort of shadow that you don't have to add too much extra to. And if you do want to add extra, you can use the easy shadow one as well. And then just sort of like add a little more or something. But it's a really good brush just because of the levels that it adds. It adds like that sharp and then soft. And it's just really good for really like effortless rendering, I would say. Okay. Let's see. Which brush am I gonna use? Let me find a brush. Use this one. Been using quite a few brushes lately. There's this one that I have that I really like. It's like a it's like this one. Yeah, this ink pen. It just looks like a pen. I don't know. I kind of like it. It's like a ballpoint pen. There's some other ones I have as well, but I don't know where they're at. I have so many. Oh, yeah, this one, this ballpoint I really like. Okay. But I will use something with a little bit more thickness to it just to sort of show things a little bit better. I think this will work. Okay, so basically with this you have here, it's not bad. Like you did your background really good. Like you did the expressionism of the background really well. And like his proportions are also also very good. Sorry, I'm really but like here, I will do a correction layer. I'll do like a writing layer for this. And then I will do, so what I really like to do when I'm writing or like giving notes or something, there's a border effect over here. You can turn this on, it'll like automatically outline your thingies. It's really good for like comics or like whatever. But I like to just do that to add a little bit more. I'm gonna make this just a smidgen bigger. I'm just gonna just fill it up. Okay. Sorry if you hear me, my hand's touching the base of this. Oops, sorry. Okay, so what I see mostly, like overall, it's pretty good. The only thing is, like, if these are supposed to be like shelves in the background, right? Oops. They are uneven, right? And the easiest way to fix that in Clip Studio, you can actually, oops, no, not the folder. Oh my goodness. There we go. So, what you can do is, if you don't want to use the line tool, which is a little easier sometimes, you can just use your brush, just tap, hold, oops, wrong button, I'm sorry, hold the shift, and then it'll bring down this line. And then if you want to, where's it at? It's Alt, I think. There's another button. Oh yeah. Oh wait. I think it's. I'm not sure because I have like this little tiny. Because I have like my tablet doesn't have like buttons on it, so I have like this little side remote thing, and it has my macros on it. So I don't know exactly what it is, but there's like another way to like lock it, so it just does what you want. But also, I see there's like two shelves over here. Another easy way to do it is use symmetrical ruler, which has been my best friend recently. I use the shit out of it all the time. Basically, just click the symmetrical ruler on whatever layer you want, and then just tap. It'll put a line. If it isn't centered, I think this one is. You can like fool around with it, but most of the time it will just center itself automatically. But if you want to like do shelves or something, but you're unsure of like where to put it, or like you want two identical things, just like do this. So, oops. And this works with most brushes. If it doesn't work with your brush, there is a setting in the brush itself. I'll have to look it up. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I always like look up stuff when I'm not sure. But like something like this. And so that way you don't have to draw so much. Especially if it's just in the background. And this just helps center your image a little bit better. It makes it so people's eyes aren't going back here. And they're not like wondering why it's like a little crooked back here or whatever. They can just sort of focus on what's in the front. Let me right there. Okay. And on this one, so mostly what I see for this, like I said, the anatomy is really good. His proportions are really good. Just a few places that sort of throw it off a little bit. Mostly it is his face. Like his face right now is like going down like this. Like that's the line of his face. But it's supposed to be more like this, you know? So it's like because our heads are round and there's like a curve in the front where your skull is. And so when you draw a head like this, you want to make sure that everything lines up in this sort of way. There's a bajillion of these tutorials online, and I'm not the best at it myself. But this is just sort of how I learned how to do it, like growing up. So if we like follow this more, we can see sort of how like pushed back his face is. And while it would make it look sort of a bit more flat than you want it to look. His anatomy is really good, again. I think the only other thing would be the hand, like here. I see what you're trying to do with this little thingy here, but it makes it look a little weird. So, really all you have to do is show this, and then this under part, if you want to show that part of the hand. But you don't really have to, just because of the angle. Like, if you took a picture of yourself, you might see that part, but since he has that, like, this crunched up in his hand, you're not really going to see the inside thumb pad, or the inside palm pad thingy. So, you would only really see this. And then, for his fingers, you want to make sure they're all on the same plane, or the correct plane, I should say. So, this right here says hand. Like, this would be the fat of his hand. And these would be his fingers. I know it's probably hard to, like, look at, but you just want to sort of visualize them as, like, hot dogs. Like, that's how I sort of envision all of, like, fingers and toes now. Just, like, round little hot dogs. And if you do it that way, it's a little bit easier. You can even give them the, like, pliability without them being too rigid. But his hand would go more up this way. And his fingers, like his knuckles, would go up this way. And then his fingers could, like, splay out a little bit. However you wanted it. And then that would be like that a little bit. And since he seems like he's pretty buff, his hand should be, I don't know, his hand seems about the right size, actually. But it does seem a little bit long. Like his arm overall seems a bit long. But, yeah, for that sort of explains that a little bit better, maybe. I'm going to sort of redraw his face a little bit. And so I can show you. I'm just going to redraw or trace over, like, a bit of his base design for, like, his face and this center part of him. So I can show you, like, how I would go about, like, coloring him. So usually we always want to have our nose, especially if we're doing a 3/4, like, side profile sort of thing. And our mouth also is always, like, a curve on our face, right? Sort of like, that's a really bad example. I've been studying a lot of the ones that are on Pinterest lately. But this is just sort of more or less how I do my mouths. You did good with, like, not overdrawing the teeth, because a lot of people overdraw teeth a lot. I also used to overdraw teeth, so you did a good job with not doing that. I think this one is too. I think it'd be more up here for me. I'm not gonna do too much. This would be a good idea. I'm always trying new things with noses as well. I usually like to focus on just the nostrils, and then instead of using too much line work on the other parts of the nose, I like to just use my color and stuff. Just so I don't like muddy up the center of my picture or the center of the face with too much lines. And usually like beauty photography and stuff is usually focused more on, you know, not having lines on your nose or whatever. I think these are too far down that I drew. Which is okay. I think that's more about it. Sorry, I always forget. I always do like, I have a bunch of like weird stuff that I like to do when I'm drawing. Like just on my pictures. And I forget. Okay, it's pretty decent. Okay, now the eyes. I really like drawing eyes, but I also have trouble with them sometimes. I know it's like a little taboo, I guess. I don't know what the word is. But I do like I use Gemini, the AI, right? And I will ask, like I'll just show her like a top half of my image, or just like just the area that I want her to look at. And I'll say, can you help me draw this other eye? And she'll do it like exactly my style and everything. So that way I can trace it and then like understand like where I was sort of going wrong on the perspective or any other issue I was having with it. I think using the tool like that can be very, very beneficial for like starting out artists and stuff. Just so you don't have to struggle or rely on random people's opinions online. Okay. I'm just lightening it. And always it wasn't, your ear was correct, but it's incorrect because of his eyes are incorrect. But your ear is always connected to, like this part of your ear that's connected to your head is always connected to, or on the same level as where your eye is. But again, it wasn't incorrect. It was just the eye was incorrect, so it made your ear incorrect. Okay. I'm just gonna do some basic shapes here. Here. So I'm gonna do too much. And for the hair, so even if you have like a slick back hairstyle, you still want to add like a little puff. It just depends. But when you have it this like stuck to the head, it sort of like makes it look really flat. So just adding like just a little curve like that, it just makes it look like it has volume. Like it doesn't even have to be like any bigger on the head itself, but just adding that. And then this is usually how I do like just like jaggies for hair. And then when you do hair, one of my easiest tricks to make it look a little better or less flat is just add this little bit right here. It's very anime, but it like bounces it off the head and adds a little bit more volume. And also, I really like to add little wispies. Now you can do this at the end or during this part too, or you can do both. But if you just add like little wispies to make the hair look a little bit less like a hood, you know. Just add a little bit more hair elements to it. But the hair overall is really good too. These are just things that would make it a little easier, I think. So you're not like too hard on your on your process. Say, baby, I love you if you really wanna get. You think I should be calling me baby. Sing my name, sing my name. Okay. And Alt Z is always gonna be your friend. I'm a Alt Z maniac. Probably gonna upload this video to my Patreon. Okay. Now, I'm just gonna do a little bit of this sweater. So, when you do wrinkles and stuff, you don't want to overdo it. This is not bad. But it sort of like overdoes this part right here. She has like way too many lines. And that's not bad per se, but like obviously this picture, if it was like a rougher picture, it would be fine, but with a picture like this where it's a little bit more soft, I guess, you would want to just add just less line work, and you want to add the details more with coloring. So here I would just do like something like this. And also one thing, I know you have pen pressure. One easiest things you can do to help with your line art is just line weight. So I'm not really paying too much attention to it right here, but you can sort of see it just like in the way that I draw. Like the lines around his eyes are a bit stronger. His eyelids are lighter, and these up here are lighter, just naturally, just by how I'm drawing. I could do this, I could push this further and like make it more consistent. But that just takes, you just have to like, you either, but a way to cheat for doing that is just switching your brush sizes. It might seem tedious at first, but once you get sort of like the hang of it, it adds a whole lot to like your art overall. Just because it adds a bit more dimension without you having to do too much else. Too much extra work. Okay. So with this, what I would do is I would add the little, like, sort of fluffies, I guess what you would call this when you have these sort of sweaters. How it's like little puffy. And then just don't make whole lines. Just do little scratchies, half lines. Just suggestions of lines, I guess. So that way, and then I would also just usually black this out. Like if there's spaces, I would just use my line art to fill in these places that I know would be a pain in the ass to, like, have to worry about the shading and everything. Like so like here, where this is tiny space, I would just fill in with black. And I'll do yeah, let's do this. This is supposed to be, so I don't really understand what's happening with this jacket. Is it a hood? Because this collar's here, right here. And then this is the strap. Is this a hood? I'm guessing this is a hood. I'm assuming. So if it is a hood, we'll just add a little bit more sort of definition to make it look a little bit more. And adding this sort of tip to shoulders adds a little bit more structure, especially for male characters or anyone who's like broad shouldered. It just gives a little bit more presence, I guess I would say. Okay. Now this is going to be very difficult and very messy. But I do have one more brush to show you, well, one more tool, I guess. Makes coloring a lot easier. Not too much easier, but easy enough. Okay. Okay. Now, how I usually start to color is once I get the line art, I make sure everything is closed off. So I make sure there's no little gaps in my line art. I'll just check all the edges, and if I think that there's no gaps, then I'll just get my little magic selector, and then just tap outside, select, invert, add a new layer, and then, sorry, and then usually I just use a bucket tool. Yeah. Let me get his skin color really quick. Use this middle green here. Okay. Okay, so we have that. I'm gonna make this background darker, just so it's easier to see. Okay. So now, if I'm coloring this for commission, I'll lock this layer. It's very important. I'll duplicate this, because if there's anything, like if I want to add a border behind the character and give it like that sticker look, as long as you have this base back here, you can literally just do anything with that. There's also a lot of like stuff on the marketplace and stuff Um, and then I would start to section things off. Sometimes, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to, but it's just what I do to keep my layers a little bit more neat. And now, but you can skip this, like the layer step, if this is not how you want to do it. But I use this tool called the Super Easy Direct Draw Lasso tool. And I just lasso big chunks. And this is, I feel like this is a lot better than just using a brush. Just because, like, when you are brushing, you naturally, like, go back and forth, with your hand. And sometimes you just miss small areas. And with this, it's just, like, way easier to, like, chunk off pieces. And you know that it's going to be completely filled. And you don't have to worry if, you're missing anything. So that's how I would do that. And this is on a different layer. And since the hair is on a different layer, I can put a layer under this layer. And what I want to do is jacket. This means I don't have to worry about what's above it because this is going to be under the hair. So it's going to be under anything that's on top of it. So I can even do the sweater under here as well. Just because it's on top of the skin but under the hair. And you don't always have to do this. I just find it easier and for me myself. But it takes a lot of the like annoying parts of coloring out, I guess. Hold on. I'm gonna fix his legs. I'm gonna do his eyes a different way. I'm gonna show a different way. But you can also do the line art for the eyes. I just want to okay. And then I would do another layer just to do the eyeballs. If I don't get the colors right, I'm sorry. I don't really feel like swapping back and forth to the other layer. Go back to the hair layer and do his eyebrows. There we go. And just clean up the edges that maybe you would have messed up. It's just a lot easier than doing just a pen tool or something. We're just gonna leave the rest. Okay. Now, I would go to the skin. Usually what I do first is I use just the default airbrush. Usually around 50%-ish. And since his skin is green, but he's still going to express blush, I'd use a purplish pink. Depends on the undertone of his skin. We'll use an orange maybe. See if that looks a little better. And just add it on multiply. Yeah, orange looks good. I usually put heat in the middle of the face, especially if they're blushing. Just all the way across, even under the eyes and the nose. And then just a little circle on the lips. You don't have to, but it just makes things easier. Okay. And since we have like the sort of blush setup, we can go to our little group. You're so fluffy. And now this is where I would just get a color that's a little bit more lighter and a little bit more saturated. And sort of curve out his cheeks. Down the forehead, bridge of the nose, forehead, chin, and then various features of whatever your character has. Also, this is not like a super in-depth art theory or color theory tutorial or anything like that. This is just what I generally would do with a commission like this. And over the eyelids in the corner. Now we can use water blur. Get way smaller. Just about the same size as like the area that you want to work in. And then just blur the edge, like the bottom edge. So you still want to have this little cut in his cheek. And then we just use the water blur. Now this is very, 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 very basic. And I'll probably add a bit more up here. Cut this in a little bit more. So this way you can sort of, the way I like to color is like I prefer to like carve. That's how I sort of see it. It's like carving out stuff rather than like layering colors, I guess. Carving shapes out with sharp edges and soft edges is usually a little bit easier in my opinion. So now we take our little detail brush. This is very, very rough. Can't let my perfectionism win. And do, of course, just touch up things along the way if you want to. That's what I usually do. And I usually end up messing something up and then redoing it over and over again. Show me what you to be. Tell me, baby. Okay. And then, this is where we can sort of use our other brushes as well. Sorry, I use two laptops, and I use this program that lets me use one mouse on both, and it just sometimes loses it to mine, and I can't function. See, when we feel like we're just rendering a little bit too much, we can just blend it out a little bit. See, this one sort of carries the color, but the water blur just doesn't. It just sort of blurs it out where it's at, and it doesn't carry it very far, which I really like. Now, of course, I'm gonna add another layer. I must confess that my loneliness is killing me now. But you know I still believe in you. Our water blur, bus pal. See, now, you can see, like, right here, it sort of, like, messes up our crispy line that we had. It looked a lot better without being blurred. Sometimes, if it does that, I do like to use just another brush so it doesn't get too muddied. I still really want to have a lot of sharp edges on his face. I guess I could use purple's not bad. Since you centered it. I want to add just a little bit more depth. Okay. Now, sometimes, since this is sort of, see, the shape of his face just isn't too perfect, I would just go in here with a normal airbrush. Oops, wrong color. And grab, like, this color here. Just fill this in just a little bit. Just to bring out the shape a little bit better. And then, of course, this is where you can, like, layer and use, like, the AO. Choose, like, a purple, just a purple, and multiply. Okay, I'm gonna multiply the layer. Oops. And of course, this is not, you can just absolutely do this however you want. In no way, this is just how I do stuff normally. And it's very speedy right now. And now for hair. But yeah, and then you can just add more layers, add more color variation. But with those like brushes, I feel like it'll help a lot with like filling if you're over rendering or something. Now for hair, it's very easy and my favorite thing. I get the base color and then I just go airbrush and I darken the base and the ends and any other like little sidey bits. And then I do any brush really for highlights. See, even this brush, you could sort of just get away with like just doing quick things without having to like spend a huge amount of time rendering the hair. And I love rendering hair, so his face would look a lot better if I didn't. If I did all the details, but you know me. Okay, for the eyes, my favorite thing to do is I like to make his eyes, I think they're blue grayish. Sometimes I like to draw the outline, sometimes I don't. It depends, really. But doing it like this gives you a little bit more freedom to like where to put the irises and stuff. And I feel like it's a little bit easier to control the size or whatever. And then get like a darker blue. That is a weird new setting I think they added to Clip Studio where it like does that long press thing. I have no idea how to turn it off. Okay, when you add the little eyeballies, my favorite thing is to get another soft airbrush, bring it way down low. Take your eyeball color and then add a little bit of red. Just a little bit. Or whatever color, you know. But this is just for like standard eyeballs. And I'll multiply. And turn up the opacity a little bit. And I usually like to turn up the hardness too. Just because the eyes, the eyelids are so close to the eyes. Yeah. I think it's not dark enough. I'm darkening up the gray a little bit. There we go. So adding some shade to your eyeball. Just gives it a lot of depth. And it lets you add a lot of good highlights. And then you can soften up the sides. Just a little bit. Use a little pink or orange on the sides. And then you can use whatever brush you want for the coloring the actual eyeball. Doing whatever you want on the eye. Eyes are fun too for me now. So I like to do them in random ways. I could do like a little thing here. Get maybe another one of these and a little blue. Get our pin and some something like that. Adds a lot more depth to your eyeballs. And it's just a lot of fun. Now, we will get a sweater. Where is... Sometimes it's good to name your layers. I never name my layers, and then I just end up turning them on and off over and over until I find what I'm looking for. So lately, what I've been doing for shading is just using this super easy direct draw lasso tool again. And, oops, I just use, oops, another layer. I'll multiply. I find a different color. And then I just chunk out big portions of for like clothes or anything. And when you put on a different layer, it lets it so you can just like test a bunch of different stuff and see what looks best. But if you have like a certain thing you're going for, that's fine too. You just do it on the same layer. But again, just get your water blur. And then we can do there's also the delete too. That can be good. I usually use the delete if I, because you can also do this process the opposite way. So just like here, I'll show you. Just fill this. Oops. Just fill this layer with shadow instead. You do it with this as well. It's a little messy, but it's okay. And then we just get the delete. And again, this is like the whole like carving stuff out. Sometimes it's a little easier for me. It depends on what I'm it depends on what it is that I'm coloring. If it's easier to cut out or cut in. Sometimes cutting out is a little bit easier because there's always going to be less highlights, but sometimes there's more shadows. So again, you can just use the water blur tool, and then with clothes, since there's also always a little bit more straight edges, you don't have to blend out the whole thing. See, like that, just took a few swipes and it looks pretty decent. I mean, of course, you can still add a lot more to it, but, you know. Same thing with the sweater. Where you just like, since it's a fluffy sweater, you would just erase any fluffy bits. And of course, you always want to know where your light source and stuff is as well. Let me give this man his tusks before I freak out. And tusks are always going to be... You never want to go pure white for anything teeth related. You want something along this color. This yellowy white. Because that's what color bones are. So you want like a bone white, so it's going to have a little bit of like cream in it. Just so it doesn't look too stark. And then, once I'm at this level and I feel like I'm done, I would take one more layer on top and get another brush. I usually like to do a texture brush, so I'll just use the same one I was using. And then I like to make a rim light. And if you do a rim light, you can also color your line art that like around the same color that your whatever the darkest shadow is in that area. So that way it gives you a little bit more like blended look. And then when you do a rim light, you can also do like a lighter bounce light. And I usually like to do purple and blue. Purple bounce light and then blue rim light is usually my go-to, but I'll mix it up sometimes as well. And so the bounce light would be like on the bottom parts of stuff. And of course I'd probably put the bounce light on a different layer just so I can make it a lot softer. So it's not as apparent. And yeah, those are my little brushes I like to use. These ones here, for the most part, for coloring. And yeah. And then there was another one that I wanted to look at was this one. Yeah. I really like this one. It's really cute. It's just a lot of the anatomy is a little bit wonky, I guess I would say. I'm gonna put this in here. So anytime you have white background, black line art, you can put it on multiply and it'll go on whatever background you have it on. And that's often how I color my line art, is I just set it on multiply and like color it a gray color or something. Now for this one, it's mostly anatomy for her. It feels like there's like anatomy and perspective, I guess. Okay. So there's a few things. Her proportions seem a little off. Especially if she's chubby. Her legs are like really long and relatively slender compared to like her chubby body, and her arms are really short and slender. So you really want to make sure that you are balancing out your body. And if she's going to pose like this, we're going to... I really like to do beans if I'm doing my own pose and I'm not like using another pose. So I like to do beans, and beans are really easy just because you just draw like a kidney bean. But her pose is really, 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 really static. And I understand why. But it's also static to a point that it's like hard to read, I guess, because it's static, and also she's her appearance is busy. So I would bring here. Oh, I know what I'll do. Let me duplicate. Just like the ocean under the moon. I'm going to just use the lasso tool. Oops. Did I not duplicate it? I did not. think we put it the wrong layer. Okay, we're just gonna do it this way. I think it'll be a little easier. So we want to. So your head was like swinging back, but the way her body is, it should be a little bit more forward. Because her spine is going to be. Because her head, spine, shoulders, hips, leggies, arms. So that's basically a little bit more how we want to do the pose, maybe. Maybe we could change our legs, of course. Have something a little bit more closer to what you have. But this is how I would. We want to make her legs a little shorter. See, just making her legs shorter, her proportions already look a lot better. And then I would just widen her up just a little bit. And then, there we go. See, if you make her legs just a little shorter, it compacts them and it makes it way more proportional after bringing her head forward as well. And then with her arms, I'm not too sure what the arms are doing. And if I'm not too sure, that means the viewer's not going to know. I'm assuming she's waving with this hand. I think with this arm, I would turn it around. Like, I wouldn't have it face the... Sorry. I wouldn't have it face this way. I would face it the other way. I would do more this way. But actually, we're just going to delete this. Delete. Okay. And this, her arm in general just needs to be longer and bigger. Something like that. But now this is a little bit too staticky. So, because I really do like this purse. So we'll see what we can do with that. We're just going to erase the sleeve. I'm listening to like a 90s or 2000s playlist. Like every other song is Diddy, and it makes me like blow myself up. Which is killing me. He's ruined my childhood. Thanks, Diddy, ruined my childhood. When I'm with you. Okay. Now, so we have our proportions a little better. Let's do our arms really quick. We'll do it on the base layer. So our arms. I would do like a, especially if you're doing like a little girly sort of stance. I'm gonna do this and put her little hand out that way. And this you can do like this. Put her hand out this way. Maybe something like that. See, now we fix your proportions a little better, but more. You can sort of tell, like, your art wasn't that bad. It's just some of your proportions and your stuff is just a little bit off. And that's okay. I'm just going to trace over this. Okay, I'm just going to lower this down a little bit. And I'll show you a little bit how I would do like the anatomy overall. Which again, it's not too bad once you fix the I'm gonna try and lighten up this background a little bit. It'll let me. Let's see. Still my heart. Color? I'll just do it this way. This is being a pain. I'm gonna turn this too bright. There we go. This one's to make sure. This one's another color. Oops. Sorry, I'm a mess. Okay, her face is pretty good. It's like her eyes and like her portions of her face are pretty good. Her eyes are just a little high, I would say personally. I would just bring them down just a little bit more. Again, this is personal preference. And whenever the eye's facing away, it is always going to be a little shorter than the other eye, so you don't want to make them the same length. You do always want to make the one that's farther away shorter and rounder. And again, same thing with the nose, as I said previously. But this time her face isn't too squished. It's just a little. It's a little. It's not squished in, but it's a little flat, I would say, maybe. Because she has like a look that her face would be maybe a little rounder, but that's just me. I'm not sure who the character is or if it's like a established character or anything. And I do like the way you do your nose. It's not bad. I'm not saying not bad. Like it's could be better. I mean, it's like it's a good way to do the nose. Also with this little part of the lip right here should always be right under your nostrils or like the middle of this little bit here. So this is always going to be aligned here. Whatever way your nose is facing, this little dip in your lips is also going to be right under that. So sort of like think of this part of your nose pushing that inside part of your lip down. Actually, I'm gonna give her a little smile instead. I'm still learning like my shapes for my mouths because it's something I'm pretty weak on too. There we go. See, that looks just a little better. Your hair also pretty good. I do notice that like your base hair is always like really stuck to the scalp. Just add a little bit more volume. and it'll just make it look a little bit more natural. Just because most people's hair is like really far away from their scalp, even if it's straight hair. It's not far away, but you know what I mean. There's a little bit more distance. Then you still want to make her skull back here. And then add her little ponytails. So for her body, usually like when you're making cute poses like this, you want to add tilt to like shoulders. So I would tilt her shoulders this way. Her neck. And if that's tilted that way, then that means her spine's this way. And then, so if the shoulder's going down, like this shoulder's going down, this hip is going to go up. And it's always going to make like a little V sort of out of your body. So we have this. And then that. So that way you get like this waist you can do anything with. And just adds a little bit more like curve to her body. It's always really, really, really good to draw your body under clothes. So usually if I'm drawing someone with clothes on, I'll still draw them naked, but I won't put any like the details or anything. I'll still draw them naked, just to get like a good idea of like their body shape and then how their clothes and stuff will fit on them. And since she has kind of small boobs, don't matter if you're black or white. I would personally since this leg is more stability one, I'd bring this leg down. So, one thing about leggies is there's going to be a more curved side and like a more straight side. And then, oops. Since she's a little chubby, her knee is going to be inside of her thigh. And then foot. Your shoe is also really good. Draw shoes way better than I do. I would just do this. And of course, all of this advice can be taken with a grain of salt. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just doing what I know a little bit more than anything else. So even now, I made her like a little too long, I think, maybe. Definitely should stay with the size that is over here. But yeah, this foot's going to be facing a little bit more forward too, which understandable. And then I would sort of take this leggy. And this side is going to be a little bit more chunky. On this side is going to be a little bit more straight. But since her leg is lifting just a smidgen, and she's a little thick, it's going to still curve here a little bit. But overall, and since it's curving on this side, it would be a little bit more straight on this side. Usually when you draw chubby characters, they always have so many good little bits you can draw. Like my favorite is always drawing these little handles up here. And I like drawing this here, so it's flappy flap. I like drawing this. Oops. Yeah. And now either I would probably put her knee in like this, like sort of like pigeon-toed, or up this way. And if you do it up, yeah, or do something like that. And then I think for the most part your outfit is good. Wait, let me. I also want to make sure her arm. Your arm should always be sort of the same width as your neck, like up here, just like on average. Like obviously it's going to be different for different characters and everything. But it helps sort of balance out your character. And so like parts of them don't look too skinny. Another good sort of tip for fingers: straight line, curve line, straight line, curve line. It's easy. It's good to like do it like that if you're doing like cartoony stuff, and then you can go in and like, you know, add details and stuff. And let's look at the outfit really quick. I think the biggest tip I would give is like, you don't have much weight to your outfit, or you don't have much dimension. So say like right here, where it's, even if her breasts are small, it's going to come up over them a little bit, right? And then come down over her tummy. And so that should also be reflected over here. And then the jacket isn't going to be this flat. It's going to have some depth to it. So you want to do something like this, where it's not at the complete edge. And you can still do like your lace and stuff, but you just want to make it still like add this little, like leave this bit here free to give it that look of dimension. And then some of your perspectives and stuff on your accessories are off, but that's okay. Like that's just like learning sort of stuff. It's a little hard to tell exactly, because like I would probably have to do this like all night. And also if you're doing like jackets, or like they're just gonna in general have less folds, just because they're bulkier. So like with this, for example, this phone, it's going to connect this way. So if it's on this side of her hip, you're going to see, and it's like turned that way, you're going to see the inside of this instead of the other way around. So this is going to be the way that it's connected. And you're going to have the keychain thingy this way. And then your phone. The phone's not too bad. I would just suggest practicing some perspective drawing. Honestly, if you look up some old Mark Kessler stuff, that's like who I grew up watching. And so I learned perspective. And then like stuff like this, since your character is like soft and chubby, you want to add that to her accessories. So even though this is a straight accessory, it's still going to curve on her body because her body's curvy. So you can do that like a number of ways, where the cloth itself is still straight, but since it's on her body, it's different. And there are numerous brushes on Clip Studio that help with ruffles, but I'll show you how to do ruffles. Just take a line like this. I know I'm saying that, and I know That looks easy, and I know it's not going to feel easy. And then do like this. I know I'm saying this. It's hard for me to explain. I just sort of like show by example a lot of the time, so it's hard for me to like, cause I don't know like the terms and stuff all the time. And then you just want to chunk out little bits. Wait, we're doing pleats. Hold on. We're doing pleats. Similar. It's just basically 2 days gonna be the day that's gonna right now. Why not? So I'm just going like this. And of course, if you wanted to do like these other ones that you have, like the little curly ones, because the what you have right here is like 2 different types, I guess, of skirt. But listen, I'm gonna just say, I would just get. I just have brushes. I just use a brush and then trace over the brush. See if I can find one really quick. Probably not, because I have so freaking many. Feels the way I do. Oh, here's one. Oh yeah, see? Something like this. No. There you go. So you just find like a brush like this. Oops. And then literally just trace over this bottom part. And then do the rest of your skirt however you would do it. Just make another layer, you know? And then just like connect the lines. And easy money, right? I think everything else was pretty good. You just have to sort of, and like when you're doing stuff around legs, so how you have this, you need to still do the shape of the leg. So her leg is always going to be, like, this part is what's going to be over top of your stocking. Like, if you look at yourself in stockings, like, your leg is always going to curve this way. So this would be, like, your little decoration stuff would be like this. With her legs in this direction, of course. Now, if she was like laying in a different way or walking, or like her is a different angle, it'd be different. But since her leg is this way, it's always going to push it down a little bit. However, I don't know how to explain this. It like follows the front of your leg. So if the front of your leg is like forward, it's going to go down. But if like the front of your leg is like, say, sideways this way, it's going to sort of go this way. It depends sort of how your leg is turned. And like even this, say if I kept this angle of her leg, I would sort of do it like this, where it's like a little bit of both. But if that was if I like retain this angle. But I feel like this is stuff you just sort of like learn over time. Like when you start to just draw like a bunch of random stuff all the time. This one, I think the only thing with this one is, I don't look at the line art really quick for the sketch. Also, one thing I noticed, her arm is still really short. So, when you have elbow, your elbow, so her shoulder is going to be up a little bit higher too, just because how she's sitting. But your elbow is always going to be in line with your belly button. So, anytime your arm is down, it's going to be in line with your belly button. Even though she is still like leaned over to the side, the length of her shoulder should be the same for her elbow to her belly button. And I do feel her body is just a little bit too long in overall. And now we pull her crotch up just a little bit. And this leg would probably sit over the other one just a little bit. It's okay. Special. So fucking special. So since this shoulder's up, the shoulder's going to be down a little bit. Just naturally. And so, like, if you do that yourself, this breast is going to be up higher than this one. And it's just going to follow the alignment of the shoulders a little bit. It depends, of course, how heavy your breasts are and everything else. But it will sort of go in tandem with your shoulders all the time. And since she's on the phone, I'm going to have her hand up here. And since it's over top of her chest, it's going to squish her breast down a little bit too. Okay. What the hell am I doing here? I'm so wrong here. And honestly, your hand that you have is pretty good, but this is just where I would sort of like change the distance of it. And I would tilt her head into it just a little bit more too. Because I think even in, I don't know if I don't know if I sit straight with my head on the phone. I think most people tilt their head towards the phone. And her face is good too. I would just tilt her head just a little bit. I'm fucking special. Wish I was special. I'm okay. What the hell am I doing here? I'm so wrong here. And always, this line right here is always going to connect over top of your arm. This is the muscle that connects to your bicep, your shoulder. That's always going to connect that way, no matter how big or small your glutes are, or chesticles or whatever. And then this hand, honestly, it's not too bad, I don't think. I would just have it a little lower. Then I would just do her, this knee bent a little bit more, or this leggy. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. I'll send you these PDFs. I'll upload this to YouTube. You know, I don't know what I'll do. Up to you. I hope it's helps. Okay, bye.